Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. Today, we're going to show you one of the few accessible places on the ship where you can actually see the armored belt. Now, honestly, you can't see much of it. This all goes back to our issue of internal versus external armored belts. On a normal warship, the way you would build it is you build your whole ship's hull and then you bolt the belt on after you've launched it on the outside of the ship. In order to get more out of the armored protection while saving weight, South Dakota and Iowa class battleships have an internal armored belt, which means that it is built into the side of the ship with all the torpedo defense built outboard of it, which means it's got to be there before the ship is launched and is thus very hard to see. There are places where you can see the backing plate that the armored belt is bolted onto, and you can see the armored belt, but you've got to climb down into a void tank to find it. So before I go any further, this information is brought to you by John Miano's visual tour of Battleship New Jersey, which is a book we've talked about a couple of times on the channel. John and I have spent close to 3 years at this point crawling over every inch of this ship. And John has gone through all of the original blueprints in our collection and produced 3 things. One, he has produced a 3D rendering of the ship, like a full CAD drawing of the ship, accurate to how she looked at the end of her career around 1991 when she was decommissioned. 2, he has photographs of the internal part of the ship, and 3, he's completed a narrative of what you're looking at in those photographs and how they're important to the structural part of the ship. There are plenty of great books out there, like Paul Stillwell's History of Battleship New Jersey that tells you the history, and Summerall's Iowa-class battleships that goes through the broad technical aspects. But John's is the first and really only deep dive into these things that I've ever seen. So this is just a sample that he sent me to help with the editing process. The actual publication of this book is probably going to happen around Christmas of this year. So something to ask for Santa to bring you Christmas time is going to be a copy of this. And we will keep you updated on this channel with when this comes out and with links to how to find it, whether it's in our gift shop or only available online. However that ends up happening, we still have to work with John and the publisher to get our copies and figure all that out. But, and I've only read a quarter of this so far. He literally just gave me this. I've already learned some new stuff, including the topic of today's video. So we've got a previous video in which we climb down into a void space and see the armored belt. There's a link to that in the description. But John told me one of the few places you can see it here on second deck. So if you've got your booklet of general plans for the Iowa-class battleships, pull them out. We are in the mess decks, and on each end of the mess deck is a door leading forward. So we are in one of those doors on the port side. This structure back here that's at a 19-degree angle is the habitable part of the ship in there. Down here, this whole buildup all has to do with the armor, and then this right here is called the second deck shelf. So this is not quite at the same level as second deck. You can see second deck comes up more to here. This structure is basically welded onto the belt and the actual deck and the habitable part of the ship as a cover to the various fuel tanks and void tanks going out this way. So we have a hatch here that leads down into those tanks. So this scalloped piece right here is welded onto the belt and is just here to take, because this belt is at a 19-degree angle, so the top of it is also angled. This is welded on, comes down, and then goes straight, and it creates something that can hold the second deck shelf. And then this is also riveted onto the shell plating on the outside. So one, it's really interesting that they're using a combination of riveting and welding. Remember, that's common for the Iowa-class battleships and ships of this period. Welding is a relatively new technology and it's not entirely trusted. Riveting is flexible and a ship needs to be able to move a certain amount. There's a concern that welded ships are going to be too rigid and even too brittle. So particularly in the hull of the ship, there is much more riveting than welding. And we've talked about this a lot in other videos, but basically Iowa and New Jersey have a lot of this. By the time you get to Illinois and Kentucky, the technology is proven to the point that those ships are going to be significantly welded almost exclusively, which is going to save something like 10% of the weight of the vessel, or about 5,000 tons, because you no longer need all of the rivets and all of the overlap and all of the scallop plates that overlay those riveted seams. So you're saving a significant amount of weight that you can develop to other things. Where you can actually see the armored belt here. See how you've got this welded structure, which is helping to support this, which is just mild steel. And you got this structure here, which is supporting the shelf plate. These little triangles you can see inside are the top of the Class A armor plate for a 12.1-inch thick armored belt, which is roughly this right here. So that's it. That's what you can see. Otherwise, to get a more accessible look of the ship, you have to go into a void space like down here. Can you think of any other places you can see the armored belt inside of the ship? Let us know in the comment section down below if you can think of them. If not, you have to wait for the book to come out. I'm really excited about it. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of other private businesses and individuals like yourselves, and we really appreciate that support. Another way you can support the museum is by liking, sharing, and subscribing to this video so that other people hear about us. They find out the museum exists and find out we have a YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.